Hi guys, welcome to the YouTube channel of Lighting Dreams. So today in the legal series we are going to discuss the general defenses in tort. Okay, for example, the plaintiff brings an action against the defendant. Okay, now what is plaintiff and defendant? I guess it is known to most of you. Okay, so if the plaintiff brings an action against the defendant, plaintiff is the person who appeals to the court, and defendant is the person against whom the petition has been made in the court. So, if a plaintiff brings a action or a case against the defendant, then he would be liable for the same. But under the Indian Contract Act, the defendant has been given some defenses. Okay, in those cases he can avoid his liability by taking the help of this defenses. By taking the help of this defenses, he can avoid his liability. So let's see what are those defenses. We will discuss them in detail. First, let's see what are the defenses by which the defendant can avoid the litigation or liability. So the first is the voluntary non-fit injuria. Then is the plaintiff the wrongdoer. The third is the inevitable accident. The fourth is the act of God. The fifth is the private defense. The sixth is the necessity. And the seventh is the statutory authority. These are the defenses that is available to the defendant to avoid the liability. So we will discuss in detail all of them one by one. The first we will talk about voluntary non-fit injuria. The maxim voluntary non-fit injuria means that if the plaintiff voluntarily agrees to suffer some harm, then in that case he will not be allowed to complain for the damages that he has suffered. So if the person has voluntarily enforced his right, okay, in that case he will not have the option to claim liability or to claim damages from the defendant. This is voluntary non-fit injuria. So it tells that when a person consents to the infliction of some harm upon himself, he has no remedy for that in tort. In case the plaintiff voluntarily agrees to suffer some harm, he is not allowed to complain for that, and his consent serves as a good defense against him. Okay, so this is the maxim voluntary non-fit injuria. Related to this is a famous case of Hall versus Brocklands Auto Racing Club. Hall versus Brocklands Auto Racing Club. In this case, what happened? The plaintiff, okay, was a spectator at a motor car race which was being held by Brocklands, and the track of the Brocklands was owned by the defendant. Now, while the race was going on, there was a collision between the two cars, and as a result of which one of the cars thrown away, and it was thrown away among the spectator, that was plaintiff. So it was held by the court in this case that the plaintiff impliedly took the risk of such injury, okay, and therefore he cannot claim any damages since the plaintiff consented to the voluntarily consented to the act, therefore he cannot claim any damages. So for example, whenever you invite somebody to your house, so you cannot sue him for trespass. Okay, neither for another example can be if you have consented to the surgeon by filling the form, then you cannot sue him. The moment you submit the surgical operation form, you cannot sue the surgeon because you have consented to that act. In the same way, the spectator at the cricket match in the IPL, or as we have just discussed as the case of the Hall versus Brocklands Auto Racing Club, okay, a person cannot recover if he is hit by the ball or if he is hit by the car because he has consented to the harm. So this is the maxim voluntary non-fit injuria, where a person when consents to the infliction of some harm, he has no remedy for that under the Indian Contract Act. Now there is a condition for voluntary non-fit injuria, that the consent which the person has given, okay, that particular consent must be free. So already in the last video of the legal series, we have discussed that what are the things when the consent cannot be free. which were either where it is under undue influence or coercion or fraud. So what this tells that if the consent of the plaintiff has been obtained by fraud or undue influence or under some mistaken impression, that content is not said to be free consent, and in that case the maxim volenti non fit injuria will not apply. So this is the one of the thing. And another thing that has to be proved in this case is that the mere knowledge does not imply the consent. Okay, so for the maxim volenti non fit injuria, the first point is the plaintiff must knew that there is some risk. Okay, there is some risk. The plaintiff must know that there is some risk involved, and after knowing the risk also he has agreed to the same to suffer the harm. In that case he cannot claim damage from the defendant. Okay, so merely if the plaintiff knew the harm and he has not agreed, or okay, merely that the plaintiff knew the harm and he has not agreed, that does not involve the maxim volenti non fit injuria. The plaintiff must know that there is some risk, and knowing that there is some risk he has agreed to suffer the harm, then only the volenti non fit injuria maxim can be applied. So this is volenti non fit injuria. The second general defenses under tort is the plaintiff the wrongdoer. So there is a very famous saying that when you go to the court against any person, your hands should be clear, your hands should be clean. And the thing is that if the person who goes to the court, his act is immoral or illegal, then he cannot claim damages or he cannot file a petition against someone. The maxim is ex turpi causa non oriutor acti, means from an immoral act, from an immoral cause, no action will arise. So to succeed in his action, the plaintiff must not have done anything illegal or immoral. So that is the plaintiff, the wrongdoer. So for example, there is a bridge which is under the control of the defendant. Okay, there is a bridge which is under the control of the defendant. It gives way, means it gets broke because an overloaded truck passes through it. Okay, now on the bridge the warning was given about the load that can be passed through it, means about the load that the truck should have. But because the truck was overloaded, okay, as a result of the truck overloading, the bridge broke. So there can be no petition filed against the defendant, means that is the bridge owner, because the truck acts was himself wrong. The truck could not claim damages from the bridge owner because his truck was overloaded. So this is the plaintiff the wrongdoer. The third part we come to the inevitable accident. So accident is something which is unexpected. So inevitable accident is something which could not have been foreseen, means someone could not have foreseen that there might be an accident. Okay, and another thing is that even if the accident is happening, then the defendant should have taken all the reasonable care to avoid the accident. Means for a prudent man or for a reasonable man, all such precautions should be taken to prevent the accident, and it should not have been foreseen. So what does it tell? Inevitable accident, that if the same could not have been foreseen and avoided in spite of the reasonable care on the part of the defendant, it is inevitable accident. So it is not just that, since you say that it is an inevitable accident, on the part of the defendant he should have used as a prudent man. Okay, as a prudent man he should have used all the precautions that were available to him. There is a famous case of Stanley versus Powell. In this case what happened, the plaintiff and the defendant were members of a shooting party, okay, and they went for the peasant shooting. Here what happened, the defendant fired at the peasant, but by mistake the shot from the gun glanced an oak tree and injured the plaintiff. So what it is telling, in the Stanley versus Powell case, what happened, the defendant and the plaintiff, they both went to for shooting the peasant, and when the defendant fired at the peasant, instead of hitting to the peasant, it injured the plaintiff. Here the court held that the injury was accidental and hence the defendant was not held liable in this case. So this is the example, or this is the case law of inevitable accident. Now we come to a very important topic, that is act of God. This is a maxim, or this is a defense which is taken nowadays very commonly because of the COVID. Okay, even our foreign minister Nirmala Sitharaman in many of the economic policy has used this defenses, that is the act of God, and in many contracts and under various agreements the act of God defense is being used. Okay, so act of God basically what means, that is the important thing, means when can we use act of God is something, means it should be an extraordinary event. The event that is occurring, it should must be an extraordinary event and something not which could have been anticipated, which could have been foreseen. It should not have been foreseen, or one more condition is that you should not have the option to guard yourself or the property or anything from it. Okay, means the accident should be due to a natural cause. There should be no human intervention, and it should not be easily protected by using the all the available force. Then only it is an act of God. So let's see what is written here. An act of God in the legal sense may be defined as an extraordinary occurrence of circumstances which could not have been foreseen and which could not have been guarded against, or more accurately, as an accident due to the natural force without the human intervention. This is a very important thing. It should be without the human intervention. Now, the COVID was made in the lab in the China, so these are the other things. But although the act of God is being used in many cases because of this COVID, let's see what the Supreme Court will take the final decision. So coming back to this act of God, two important essential is that there must be working of the natural forces and the occurrence must be extraordinary, means in spite of using all the force, it could not have been protected easily. There is a famous case of Ramlinga Nadar versus Narayan Reddy. Okay, here what was happening? This defendant, the defendant was carrying a lobby in which there were several goods which was robbed by an unruly mob. Okay, now the defendant here claimed the defense of act of God. However, it was held by the court that this cannot be an act of God. So he was held liable to pay the damages that was being the damages that was being owned. Okay, because this is not something which cannot be guarded against. There was no working of the natural force, and the most important thing is there was a human intervention. So this was held in the case of Ramlinga versus Nadar Narayan. Now we come to the private defense. So private defense is a very common thing that we all know, that if we want to protect myself or my property or my neighbor or his property, I can use the private defense. But the condition is that the force that is used in private defense should be reasonable. Okay, means there should be a limit on the force. It should be justified only for the purpose of the defense. There is an example given that A would not be justified in using force against B merely because he thinks that B would attack him someday, nor can the force be justified by the way of retaliation after the attack is already over. So, if you are thinking that my friend will attack me tomorrow or on 13th of June, so you cannot kill him or you cannot use any kind of force against him. Or if something has already happened in the past, he has done something against you on 25th May, and now today if you are using force, that could not be taken as a private defense. And the important point is that the force should be reasonable. The force should be reasonable in this case. So we have the famous case of Mundali versus M. Gagan. The famous case of Mundali versus M. Gagan. Here what happened? A landowner had let down some live electric wire on his land, and the plaintiff, while crossing it at 10 p.m. in order to reach his own land fast, he used this shortcut. Okay, and as a result of which he received a shock from the wire and sustained injury. Now the thing was, the defendant has the defendant had given no visible warning about such wire, and therefore he was held liable for the injury to the plaintiff, because to protect the land he used force, okay, which was first thing was not reasonable, and then he has given no visible warning about such wire, as a result of which the plaintiff received shock from the wire and sustained injury. In this case, we cannot use the private defense, and hence here the defendant was held liable. Then we come to necessity. Necessity is a, in the common term, means jarurat. So any act which is done under necessity to prevent an act, means a bigger act, an evil act, then it can be taken as a defense under tort. Okay, so here we have the famous case of Pope versus Sarpe. Pope versus Sarpe is a famous case of necessity where the defendant entered the plaintiff land to prevent the spread of fire to the adjoining land over which the defendant had the shooting right. Okay, there was a fire on the plaintiff land, as a result of which the defendant entered to prevent the fire to spread to the adjoining land. Therefore, in this case, the defendant cannot be held liable because it was a necessity. Similarly, for example, there is a very famous case also. I don't remember at this point of time, but most of the you have heard it also, that there was a case in which a ship was having 10 people, okay, and another ship was having more than 1000 people. So then the thing came that both the ships were going on together, and the food was going on decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. So it was decided by them that the ship having 1000 people, all those people will be killed, and the ship having 10 people will be given all the food so that they can survive. Okay, so because the thing is that to prevent a greater evil, the necessity means the defense of necessity can be used in this case. And the last is the statutory authority. So any act which has been authorized by the legislature cannot be actionable even though it is a harm to someone. Okay, so there is the famous case of Vaughan versus Taff Walder Railco. Here what happened, the sparks from the from the engine was coming out, as a result of which the plaintiff woods were burnt, which were kept to the adjoining land of the near the railway. It was held that since the respondent, that is respondent here is the railway company, had taken the proper care to prevent the emission of the spark, and the more important thing, they were doing an act which was authorized to them by the legislature, so they were not liable. So this is a statutory authority. Okay, same is the case of the army people also, they are protected under this statutory authority. Okay, so this is a defense under tort. So what is still that the damage resulting from an act which the legislature authorizes or directs to be done is not actionable even though it would otherwise be a tort. So this is the case of statutory authority. So today we discuss the general defenses that are available in the tort. For example, if the plaintiff brings an action against you, what are the defenses you can take? The first is voluntary non-fit injuria, where the plaintiff himself has agreed to suffer some harm. He has no right to claim the damage. Then, the second was the plaintiff, the wrongdoer. So, as I told you, whoever goes to the court should have a clean hand. Okay. Then we come to the inevitable accident, that is something which could not have been foreseen, and in spite of the reasonable use of care, that a prudent man would use, in spite of that, the accident could not have been avoided. In that case, the defendant could not be held liable. The act of the God, here the important thing is there should be the natural force without any human intervention. Okay, and then we come to the private defense. That is, as I told, that if you means the force that is used to protect oneself or one's property should be reasonable. That is the private defense. Necessity, okay, when you have to prevent a bigger evil, you can use this defense. And then we have the statutory authority, any act which has been authorized by the legislature, then you cannot claim damages or it is not actionable even though it would otherwise be a tort. So these are the general defenses available under the tort. So that's all. Thank you.